Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisy. Let's jump in. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. We're recording here on the Managing Partners Podcast, and I'm excited to have someone that was referred to me or introduced to me through a friend of mine, Armando Leduc. And I got John Glon on the show today, and we're going to be talking about some cool stuff. I know a lot of folks here that listen to the show may have either heard of EOS, or they actually implement EOS in their business, and John's very familiar with that, but he's also got some interesting takes on that, and we're going to dive into that, but also kind of what he's doing that's like a EOS 2.0, he calls it. So really excited to talk about that and some of the human elements for growing our businesses. So John, welcome to the show.
Kevin, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you mentioned Armando, right? He's good at connecting with good people. So happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Armando's been great, and we know a lot of the same folks and hang out often. And like I said, we're actually taking this podcast on the road. We're going to be at Mardi Gras in San Diego doing a live podcast booth on site together. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, excited
Sounds
about
fun.
that. So it's all about, meeting good people and connecting with people and helping each other out. So this podcast is definitely all about that. So John, tell us your background. Tell us where you've been and where you're at.
Yeah. And, and podcasting is fun, by the way. You just get to have really cool conversations. But for me, right, I actually started in the corporate world out of college because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, is get a big name on your resume. And the more I rose through the ranks, the more I realized I didn't want to be in the corporate world. I think I was shunning the corporate world at that time, but more importantly, I think I'm just not a very good employee. And so found the right niche, found the right thing that I wanted to do, was actually doing the same thing, just do it as an independent rep. And that company is Great Lakes Essential Power, and that's 12 years old here in January. So had a lot of fun building that business, skinning my knees, almost driving into the ground, and then growing it back up, and all those fun things that are entrepreneurism. And all along the way, finding out what I really, really want and what am I passionate about. And we implemented EOS in my company 8 years ago, and I've loved what it's done for our business, but I also really loved the implementer that we had. His name's Mike Coates. A shout out to him. He is what I espouse to be, right? There's EOS implementers that create a help you with the operating system in a business, but then there are ones that get the human element. And he took a personal approach with me as the visionary and realizing that I was struggling with some things. And so introduced me to another side of the world, which is tapping into my inner self. And that led me on my journey to where I am today. Few stops along the way, but I really realized that I wanted to help humans, and I've found a limited way to continue doing that within my business unless I hyper scale as far as touching more humans. And I found that I always wanted to be an EOS implementer, and I felt that I could help more people rise the tides by helping more people within their business. And then ultimately, if I help them as humans, then they can help, that impacts their family and their families, et cetera. And so fast forward, I found that right intersection with Bloom Growth Operating System, and with a mixture of some working genius in there as well. And, because again, I get to help entrepreneurs. I admire entrepreneurs for their grit, for their passion, for their ideas, and really just having guts. But guts only get you so far. Grit only gets you so far. So at some point, you got to put some things in place to help you get out of your own way in most cases. And so Bloom Growth Operating System is a marriage of, that's why I call it EOS 2.0. There's nothing wrong with EOS. I think what just changes for me is I get to add way more human element. I get to do far more work on the human side of things that unlocks even more potential within companies for themselves and for their families. So long-winded, right? I am a Bloom Growth coach, coaching leadership teams to scale.
Love it. That's awesome. As just a good way to put it, I think, again, for those that know EOS, implement it or read traction and things like that. Very practical ways of doing things, but yeah, some of the human elements, because me and John just, we chatted before a few weeks ago, that are missing, that they kind of layer on. So I think I want to kind of, get into some of that. Like what are some of those things that make what you're doing slightly different or better than EOS? Again, nothing knocking EOS.
Right. Yeah. I not to disparage by any stretch of the imagination. It's fantastic.
If you're not doing EOS or nothing else, please at least do that.
Yeah, pick one, right? Pick scaling up. Pick something. Your life will be better for it. And I'll also offer a suggestion is not try to do it on your own, right? There's a reason that there are coaches and implementers and things like that. It accelerates your journey. And that's not just a plug for me. That's just for anyone. Very few people are great at implementing things themselves. Having a third party, someone to help push, prod, really helps. That's part of the human element that I bring personally, but also again through the Bloom process. So the things that we do are each session, we are digging into the things that hold us back as humans and the stories that we tell ourselves that cause us to act in a certain way. We talk about how we interact with each other, but not with, I wanted to say limerick. That's not right, but, not with key phrases or anything like that, but it's around being centered as the human, right? We don't work on practices and, not necessarily like, hey, what's your disc profile? It's not necessarily that. It's just an awareness of how we are. I mean, case in point, I have a new client, and when he reached out to me a few months ago, he said, hey, I've been watching your podcast, and we've known each other for a long time, but we just haven't connected in a long time. And he said, I think you can help me. And when we were talking, it was about the business, but then he's like, man, I got some other stuff going on. And, there's always that, right? As entrepreneurs, we're humans, and sometimes we bring in a lot of extra baggage because of the business. It becomes our identity, all those kinds of things. And I knew enough to know that there were some issues, but, didn't really know what it was. Had our first day one session, and he's like, hey, elephant in the room, I'm an alcoholic, right? Okay. We're on the surface, and we talked about a lot of that as a team. And then 30 days later, we're back together, and he kind of fallen off the wagon again and really causing havoc at home and in the business. And instead of going away and saying, oh, I need to go away and go somewhere, I said, no, we're going to do this all together. And so I got to help on the personal side. And no, I'm not a counselor per se, but our session, and it's really curated to get through these things and to really realize the love that each one had for each other, regardless of what had happened over that last month. Everyone wants everything to flourish and thrive. But that personal side, again, that was a very extreme case, but it was just so powerful and moving to tears, and not just surface level, hey, I'm sorry, man. It's nothing like that. It's, hey, what are the things that we're dealing with? What are the triggers that are happening for this person? But also here in the office, when you act this way, you may be saying that all you're trying to do is help us come up with a new process, but the way you say it takes us back on guard. And so we talk about how we approach each other. And it was the most magical session that I've had, because we affected the business in different ways, right? We did the practical things, but we also are getting through on the human element that unlocks all of it. You can write down all the processes you want. You can say, I'm shooting for the moon, right? I want to be 10X in 5 years. You can say all that crap you want, but until everyone breaks their barriers down and get that trust level, you're going to have the same person pushing a rope up a hill and not everyone else on board with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want real change, you got to have those kinds of conversations. You got to break that down. I think, too, as entrepreneurs, I don't need a helper. I don't need an implementer. I don't need a coach. That's kind of how we're wired to not have someone to help you, or to tell you what to do or hold you accountable. And I think that's a problem, for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, especially some of the solo lawyers out there that I know personally or come in contact with, that like they are the end all be all. A lot of folks that listen to this show, and a lot of the guests I've had on the show are they're open. They bring in people. They bring in coaches. They listen to people. They read books. They're in masterminds. That's definitely the way to go. And to know that you need someone like a John or a US implementer to come in and do it for you and help you through it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, again, certainly with the attorneys, right, you deal with, like, they're all supremely sharp people. So it's and people that start business, right, they do it because they know whatever it is that they're doing, right? So they're very good at it. And, it's hard. I had someone that a good friend of mine, said the one thing, like the one key learning he has as an entrepreneur is no one's going to come save you. Like in all of that mess, right? If you can drive hard and do all these things, but if you're sitting there by yourself, there's no one there to help you. And, I think that you're right. It's not for everyone. I'm not going to try to beat down someone's door if they're not open to it. And if they know everything already, just ask them. Sometimes I love those challenges, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? I know that that's not going to be a successful story, because we've got to break down so many barriers that we might spin our wheels for 6 months because they're just not open and there. So you nailed it, right? It's those that kind of listen to this stuff and that join on here, right? They're eager to learn. That ego is checked. There's still an ego. We all have that, but they still check the door a little bit to, how the hell do I do this without just me doing it myself?
Yeah. I mean, Thank you for tuning into the show today. I have taken things to the next level, and I've started the Managing Partners Mastermind. We're a peer group of owners looking for connection, clarity, and growth strategies. So if you're looking to grow your law firm and not do it alone, please consider joining the group. Spots are limited, so I ask for anyone to reach out to me directly through LinkedIn, and we can set up a one-on-one call to make sure it's a fit. Now back to the show. If they're listening to the show and they read books and they go to masterminds and conferences and all that stuff, odds are they know that the shortcut to being successful in business is to bring in people and listen to people and open yourself up and not say, I know everything or do everything. You delegate, right? You want to get yourself out of the things that you're not good at and, focus on what your superpowers are and what you're the best at. So yeah, for anyone that's listening that's about to start a business or start your own law firm, or maybe you're just a solo that's never really grown and you're just trying to learn something, bring in experts, bring in coaches, listen to other people. The faster you do that, the faster you're going to have the growth you're looking for. And whether it's growth, time, whatever, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point too, is they also have to want it. Some guys that are by themselves and gals, right? Maybe that's all they want to do. They just want to, it could be a very comfortable thing and that's what they want. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And wanting it for the sake of someone else, because someone else wants it, you're going to get burnt out. You're not going to get there. I have that same struggle with clients. If they say they want to grow because everyone says they do, or hey, my buddy's doing this and it's that and that. And so they say, yeah, I want to be 10X what I am. And then once we get down that journey, they're like, wait a minute, actually, I don't want that. I'm pretty happy where I am. So that's okay too, right?
Yeah.
But
that's awesome, actually. If you're okay where you're, I think
absolutely.
you've already won. That's the case.
As long as you have really asked yourself those questions and you've really, really sat in it and know that's what you want, and you're not just copping out because you're not growing. There's a lot of that too. Just it's just that ego protection thing. It says, we haven't grown for 4 years. I didn't really want to anyway. Yeah, you did. We just didn't do the right things.
Well, I think, that's I like the exercise of putting yourself at the end goal and working backwards to be like, okay, let's just say I was there now. Like, is that what I really want? Or is it just a monetary goal or, some kind of goal that you just assumed you need to hit?
Yeah.
Is that where you really want to be? And what would you have around you? Team, people, things, whatever. And is that where you would want to be? And some people would be like, probably not. Do I want 100 employees? Do I want 1,000 employees? Do I want 2 employees? But if you can put yourself in that spot now and say, okay, is that where I would want to be? Or maybe it's somewhere along the way that you'd rather shoot for.
That's actually a lot of the work we do, because it's certainly when someone is maybe in a more traditional, slow moving manufacturing or whatever, or hey, they took over the law practice from their dad or whatever it might be. Sometimes it's hard for them to see something different and bigger, and it's kind of scary. And we go through those things of like, well, boy, yeah, if I just had 3 more employees, man, I'd be doing great. Are you really getting yourself up to really think and dream about something bigger? Doesn't mean you have to do it, but to get them to think about that is a lot of the work that we do too, but also just not about the work side. What does your whole life look like? What do you want the whole life to look like? We can grow and we can make you $100 million firm or whatever. But do you want to be working 100 hours a week? Do you want to have stress? Do you want to be not home? What do you want it to look like around you? You said that a little bit, but I wanted to bring that home.
Yeah.
You want to be traveling? Do you want to be tied to that business? The whole picture is what we need to make sure we understand, not just what you think the business might look like.
Yeah. Like what, it'd be like asking John, like, what do you want your position to be as the owner of a company 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever? And that could be the janitor of that. I want to go mop floors and no one even knows I own the company. Or I still want to be the CEO. Or, I don't really want to be that. I need to hire in people, build a C-suite. And I just want to do some of the law work that I love to do. And it might be very minimal amount of work that I just still enjoy to do. What is it, right? And so you can lay that out and say, I don't want to be the business owner, CEO. I don't want to be a lawyer at all. I got tons of law firm owners that are friends of mine. Like, I never want to go, run a case again. I never want to go to court again. I really don't want to do this stuff. I like the business side of the practice. So there's no wrong answer, And
that's the beauty of a couple of things you just said, right? I don't know how in the hell you're supposed to know at 18, at 20, whatever you want to do for the rest of your life, right? I'm just figuring it out at post 40.
I still don't know.
Right. And because, I get bored. So, it's like, hey, what well, who can I help? How can I help? And see what comes in front of me. But again, I have a ton of attorney friends also. And it's like, well, I'm in it now. I went to school. I've now got a great practice. I'm making great money, but man, I am grinding. I'm, either whether they're a partner at a firm or an employee or even the owner. And it's that same thing. It's like, well, now you can choose. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? You get to, well, and anyone can. It's just people tend to not try to change their careers depending on how they're set up, because now you have the cars and the house and the clubs and all those things.
Yeah.
And so we're locked into that. But that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. Again, certainly because, with you, with attorneys, right? How often many of them think of it like business, and they have an opportunity to, wait a minute, either, wait, I get a way out of here to run this business, not way out, but like, again, I don't have to do the stuff I don't love to do anymore. Or, man, I'm a great litigator. Let me just go do that. And I imagine it's a tough conversation with some folks of getting that ego out the door. They're like, wait, but we have a CEO, and that doesn't mean I'm not the man. No, it still means you're the man or the woman, right? I mean, you're the one bringing it home, but let someone else run that business. And that's I got to imagine that those that have the courage and, again, their ego checked to be able to make that call, it's probably like throwing gas on the fire, right? Of growth. It's like, get me the hell out of the way.
Yeah,
I've
get
been
me
there.
out of here. I suck at this, or I don't want to do this. I don't
Yeah.
get energy from doing that. Like, we have presidents that run our companies that have full, pretty much operation control, budgets, everything. So that's our effort to get us out of the way, because, we haven't taken the company to where we want it to go,
Mhm.
So you got to bring in someone that has got the ability to do that for you. And honestly, it starts to get, you got to do stuff that you just don't want to do, don't care to do,
Mhm.
Like me, I'm the
Well,
face of the business. I want to go talk to people, do podcasts, build connections, and just talk about business. But I don't want to be doing all the little things that have to be done to actually make it successful. I can talk about them all, but do I want to do them all? No, I suck at most of them.
yeah, and I think that's a key piece, because now that I just hearing a couple of things that we just danced around here too, is like investing in someone to run the business is really an investment. I think so many people are looking at, oh, I can't afford that. That's a cost to bring in a CEO, bring in a president, right? Yeah, there's a number that's tied to that, but that could be a multiplicative investment, not a cost. Because most people are trying to figure out, how do I fit this into my expenses versus what's the ROI? I put this down. What could this possibly do if we did that? And
100%.
getting people to that conversation is different, because most people, again, it's the scarcity mindset. It's, hey, looking at a balance, it's looking at a bank statement versus forecasting a P&L, right? Looking in the rear view instead of figuring out how we do with the future.
100%. And me and my business partner, and it was something that he was trying to figure out and come up with. My partner's way more like analytical and numbers guy and
Mhm.
task oriented.
Good.
The opposite.
I love it.
We put together, we wanted to get like a spreadsheet and some data to start tracking me and his investment into the business. So that's whether, if we keep profit in and we reuse it, we hire people, we expand. How much have we invested in our business, and what's been the return on that? And
Mhm.
so then we track that every month. And our return on investment versus anything else, like real estate, stock market, whatever, the business destroys all of them by far. The value that has grown and the money that we're taking out of it now, and the value that's going to be worth, to invest back in our business is the best investment possible.
That is,
So if I get an extra 20 grand like this month, like I could tell my wife we can go do something, or just keep it in the business and hire another 2 salespeople.
yeah. And you know what? That's so funny, because again, myself, I generally only go off my experiences for the most part, or someone else's fall down. But I got looped into early on when I started the business, trusted advisor, CPA, and he's telling me all these ideas, but these great things that people do to reduce taxes, right? Safe harbor, get into do all these kinds of different things. And I got so intoxicated by the cool things you could do as an entrepreneur that I was like, well, wait a minute. Like 3 years later, I'm like, wait, how do we put this into the business? What would have happened? Right. And so many, and I have other friends, again, I deal with lots of entrepreneurs, and they're like, well, I want to go start this other business. I'm like, what you have, or what are you investing in the stock market? I'm not saying not to at all, but you have an investment tool that's right in front of you that you can help control, that you control what happens with it. And stock market, you don't have any control. Wait a minute. What about what you have right here? And what if you put that back in here? And,
But then we
that's,
need to take it out and then do something with it. And there's all kinds of tax strategies and stuff that I'm currently
right.
working on.
Yeah.
for my personal side of things. But it's me and my partner have the more every time we put money into the business. I mean, it's and the thing is when you evaluate your business and you grow your business, and then it starts to become a multiples game. Right? 7x, 10x, 12x, 14. I mean, so you want an investment, to put money into, that's the place to do it.
And what a great best practice that you just shared that, I, the more that, again, we coach and have folks talk to, do a monthly financial meeting. You don't need to, there are people that stew over it every day, look at the bank account every week. Like that most businesses, that's not necessary, right? There's the monthly conversation needs to happen, but tracking ROI, I don't often have people do it on a monthly basis. And even then it's messy, like trying to figure out, it's like almost voodoo math sometimes, right? Is it really? We wanted to make the number look good. So we did. When you're doing it from a quarterly and an annual standpoint, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in between there. But really tying in when you can trigger what's going on with that investment. And you can do that in a monthly basis. That's a really cool best practice.
Yeah. Again, kudos to my partner, for getting our financial admin to add that in. And yeah, is it, how dialed in perfect do we have it? I don't know, but we know we wanted to start tracking that. And then the evaluations of our businesses and what they're worth and valued based on current this month signed contracts and MRR, recurring revenue and stuff like that. Which not all law firms are going to be able to kind of do the same things that we can because we have predictable kind of cash flow. We're a contingency firm, might make an extra 2 million this year and not make that extra 2 million next year. So it's definitely a different game, but it's all about trying to control as much as you can and predict as much as you can. Right.
Yeah. And what were you doing? Cause you're right. That big lump might not be there, predictably not be there next year. So what are you going to do with it? Right? Are we cashing it out to go buy some boats or, are we, or whatever it might be? Or what can we strategically do with this?
Exactly.
And track it.
Great exercise I did. This is a EO entrepreneurs organization workshop. And it was like a speaker they brought in. And they made us do this exercise where, okay, where do you want to be in 5 years, right? I think it was 3 to 5 years. And everybody's writing down these like big goals and cool goals. And at the time, I think our goal was like $5 million or something like that. And we're way north of that at this point. It's, it was either, I don't know, it was 3 or 5, something like that. Either way. And they're like, okay, cool. What tools, what people and systems do you need to get to that 5 million? And we make a list. Okay, we need this many salespeople. We need this and that. And at the end of it, we do this whole exercise and we're like, cool. Now we can start to work on maybe, I guess, this plan over 5 years. That's what we kind of thought it was about. And the guy goes, what if you could do it this year? And everybody's like, that's insane. There's no way. And the whole concept was, what if you get an SBA loan, or what if you can get financing or an investor or backing, and you can get all the things on that list today? Where would you be at the end of the year? And we were like, holy crap. And so we think we have to do, we think we have to wait.
Incrementally
we have to have everything in order and it's perfection, and we have to have the money and we have to have the process. And then, that timeline gets drastically stretched out, even if you ever hit it. Those goals, right? So I thought it was a pretty interesting concept to kind of like be able to say, hey, what if we wanted to do it now? And a contingency fee, they could take a big lump sum and say, double down, let's roll.
Yeah. No, because again, most businesses don't deal in that big of those swings, right? Right. Most businesses are like, at your point, there's a work in process. There's continual work, but the ones that have those, again, those chunky things, what are we doing with it? And that's actually what a great exercise. And I'm just going to flip that around. I'm going to use that with some of my clients to get to their gut check. When I was telling you before, like I've gone down, or been a year in, and I'm like, they're grading how they did the last year on how they did against their priorities. Again, we call them priorities, not rocks. And, in your numbers, right? And they're like, man, we did a really shitty job. We didn't meet a bubble, but you're better. We agreed you need to hire a COO or an integrator, but you're not doing it. What's going on? And again, they didn't do bad, but they were even. There used to be an even. That's why they came to me. But
yeah.
But then we just had that really hard look of, I always come back to, I can't want it for you. I kept like, hey, how can I help you more? And I can't step in and do the work in the business, but how can I help you? And ultimately what we came down to was, he actually doesn't want to grow 10X. We're trying to set all these things up all year to grow 10X over 5 years. And he's like, I guess I really don't. If I just got 3X, I'd be so tickled. I'm like, well, that changes how we should do things. But coming back to, again, that's why me coming up, hearing things like that about different practices to get someone's real gut check of where do you want to be? Like, hey, okay, you dreamed all that out. What if I gave you $1 million right now to go do that and see if like, where's the gut? Because now you, it's out there to your point, but there's a whole different risk involved. You got someone else's money. You got to lose versus the incremental game.
Yeah, and the thing is, was that dream, that list, just because we're in a room of other owners and we're like, oh, I gotta be aggressive, and maybe deep down you're like, that sounds like a lot of freaking work. Or
Hmm.
yeah, if you gave me the money right now and said no interest, Kevin, go get all that stuff, I still have to hire those people, train those people, put in the systems, make sure everything's going right. Do I want to do that? Oh, well, I got a family trip coming up, and I got the kids are out of school, and then whatever.
Hmm.
You might not actually want to disrupt your whole life to do that. You might not end up being in a position, or you might be the opposite. You might say, I got nothing else to do. This is it. Let's roll.
Yeah.
You know,
Because no matter what, it's going to be work. Even if you hire people, right, to like come in and do the work, like you said, you hired a president. It's not flipping a switch and it's working like clockwork. You still have to be in it. You have to transfer knowledge. You still have to make sure, all those things. So it is still hard work, no matter what. If no matter what kind of a check is being written, right? You gotta be ready to be in it.
yeah. And then even though there might be less, maybe the risk might not be bigger, but it's going to feel more on your shoulders. Like, I hope all this works.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, do you really want that or not? And
Mhm.
what's your risk tolerance? And
Yeah, same thing. Like those of us that have tried the right, have not failed, but taken on debt, and it's become a noose, right? It didn't have the desired effect, but the debt was still there, right? And so it was just the same thing with me. Again, I only learned from my experiences, not only, but that's how I learned the best is through my own poor choices or attempts. And I've been there where it was like we took on debt, but wasn't really for the right reasons. It was just to make me feel easier to not having the cash flow issue versus what is the actual plan with this? What are we hiring? What are we doing? And tracking the ROI. Then, 2 years down the road, you realize, oh, I just have a bunch of debt. I, you know, I, we didn't deploy it in the right way. So I've got scar tissue. So yeah, what's it going to mean like for me to take on some debt to do something else? I'm actually going to follow the right process and make sure that my gut is aligned with these facts. And do I want to go tackle that or not?
yeah, I think it's a great exercise for anybody to do, and be honest with yourself and truthful. I think that's the hardest thing. Like you're saying, like when me and my business partner, we had a podcast called the Journey to $100 million. Still out there. We got like almost 1,400 episodes.
Wow.
And back in like 2018, 19, we came up with this goal. We're gonna go to $100 million in revenue as an agency. And people were like, holy crap. Well, 10,000 or 10 million just sounded like, you know, not too crazy sounding. So we wanted to go big. And we just kind of plucked that out of thin air, and it sounds awesome, and it sounds like this big goal. But then it's like, okay, what does it look like to actually get there? Right. And I think a lot of people are pressured because their friends or their wife or their husband or whatever, like they're trying to go for this big goal, but it's like, do they really know what it's like to be there? And like, is that where they want to be? I think most people have not taken time to think about that.
Welcome to entrepreneurism, right?
Not that I have done a great job of thinking about that myself, but it's just I think it's a constant exercise with anything, you know.
Absolutely. Where am I? What do I want to do?
Even like with your kids, like in the sports, are they going to be playing professional, or they're just kind of like, I like it, and they're just like, I don't want to be pushed and go to every single thing in the world. That's something they can ask themselves, right?
Yeah. Got to have that conversation.
Yeah. Because the parents, you can be like, go, go, we're going to go to every game around the whole freaking state, and they're just like, yeah, I
No,
don't even like it anymore.
it happens. It's burnout. And then we take on that. It's exactly the same as in the business, takes on the identity of the business. Well, hey, I'm a proud father. My kids start being successful in sports. Then I'm living vicariously. The whole, you can do the dance moms, you can do all that kind of thing, right? We all do that. And we're living vicariously. So that we had put a plan together. Oh, you're going to go to college and do this. How many friends I have that, again, that like, yeah, they're doing this. We're doing all these things. We're going to all these camps, doing all these things to get exposed to college. And then they potentially get a scholarship. And they're like, I don't want to do that. Well, oops. But at least they're being honest with it now and not, but things change, right? Especially as kids. We got to be, if we're not willing to change as adults, and monitor that and show kids that, how do we help them be adaptable in society? That's a whole nother podcast episode. We should probably,
That's a whole other one. I
this
mean,
isn't the parenting one, but
well, that's the cool thing about kids is like they have that freedom at the moment to hopefully, right, to be flexible and then go anywhere they want to go. And as an entrepreneur, you might feel like I can't go anywhere. Like I am stuck right here all day. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, we do have choices, but it
You
comes
don't
down to
have
that
to
gut.
be.
Like it comes back to that, just checking in with yourself. What the hell do you really want?
Well,
And
yeah,
how bad?
obviously, if you don't implement things and plan and do some of these exercises, that you will be right where you're at next year
Hmm.
because you're just stuck in the work and going, well, I don't have a choice. So I just got to keep working. I don't have time to talk to John or an EOS person because I'm just too busy. And guess
Hmm.
what? You'll be too busy next week and next month and next year.
Life's happening to you.
That's right, dude. I love it, man. Yeah, plenty more episodes we can probably dive into in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, well, John, we shared a lot of different things, covered a lot of cool stuff. Excited to learn more about Bloom, of course. What's the best way for folks that are tuning in, listening to the show, can find you, connect with you, and find out more?
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. You can Google Bloom Growth Coach and then John Glon, JOHNGLON. Yes, it rhymes. And yes, I'm the third. So, two generations didn't understand the rhyming part, but you can look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to connect there. And my email is john.g@bloomgrowthcoach.com. And absolutely, you can call my cell phone. I'll throw it out there, 248-534-8503. Happy to
And John,
connect.
where are you coming from at? Where do you live again?
Oh, I probably left that part out. Yeah. I live outside of Detroit, Michigan. So in Northville, Michigan. Got a lovely wife of 18 years and 4 lovely kids that keep me busy.
4 kids. I got 2, and we're done.
Yeah, we are too. Just took a little while to get there.
Awesome, John. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing. You know your stuff. Great lessons to be learned, and sounds like you're helping a lot of great people out there. So definitely connect with John. And if you want a personal introduction, just reach out to me, and I'll make it happen. And we'll see y'all on the next episode. John, you stay on with me for just a moment to let this upload. Everyone else, have a good day. We'll see you soon.
Thanks again, Kevin.
Yes, sir.